Last week's episode of Being Invisible and the Male Filter really stimulated conversation. And we've gotten emails, there are posts on Facebook, and people are wanting to know more about that. So one of the questions that someone emailed in was, what are examples of what I'm seeing through the male filter?
Okay, so first, the question is, let's define this male filter in the really loose terms, because it's one of these things where you define it and then you talk about it, and that gives you more room to define it differently. So this male filter is really very much the group consensus over many eons of time as to what life is. So we walk around and we say, this is what our world is, this is how it works, this is what it's all about. So this particular filter, if you would, is a consensus of all of these eons that really were constructed with a male influence, male flavor, if you would, that goes back way before, really in the biblical terms of what the fall of consciousness was. And so as you begin to grow this whole perception of a dominant male position defining the world for you, let's start with that being the male filter that we just see through. Now, that's something that we just accept because you don't think about it. It is and is in your life. And so as where we talked last week, you begin to figure out means of repositioning yourself. And one of them is that concept we talked about, invisible, where you get so quiet that a lot of the noise just simply goes away, and your ability to begin to perceive your world differently is available. Now, even in that space, if you are just looking, you're still looking through that male filter. But here, where we're starting to play, and as things are beginning to break down, the institutional structures, etc., breaking down, your ability to kind of see the world differently is coming to you.
So an example of viewing the world through a male filter in a more general sense, not as an individual would not necessarily do this. Generally, looking at a female body or a male body through this male filter causes a judgment or causes an opinion or something that's not neutral.
Sure, so let's add one more piece to it. When that male filter was created, the nature of feminine, now we're not talking about bodies, male body, female body, we're talking about a flow, an ability to be considerate, words like that would come into play, versus this is how it is, absolutes, always and never. And so that male filter being straight lines, angles, always, never, rigid structuring, it doesn't matter whether you have a male body or a female body. It's the structuring of how you see the world and how we move into it. So what's beginning to happen, when I talk about these three waves of light that are now coming in, two of which are disengaging to a great extent that male filter and many of the other perceptions that we hold in rigid form. But the strong one right now is this feminine characteristic, which is allowing flow, ease, the ability to say what if without argument. So there's possibilities with ease being to flow into the structures, into your perception, into your consciousness. You're watching people start to say things differently, ask questions differently. That's the feminine aspect of consciousness. And so as it's coming into the mix, you're starting to see people recognize that the absolute right, wrong, good, bad, should, shouldn't, rigid, always, never, is really it functions in some capacities, but it's by itself broken.
Yeah.
And that's what we're starting to find. So individually, this place is, as you begin to get into a invisible. Let's start calling it this different alignment, this alignment that allows you to be very quiet and invisible, quiet, to where people are not engaging you or you have to engage with others. It's from that place that you're going to begin to start to recognize choices rather than the rigid always and never.
And being in that invisible alignment allows you the neutrality, objectivity, and ability to observe. So when you do find yourself in a situation where someone's viewing you through the male filter, or the male filter is up, very patriarchal, is up, and you're in that invisible alignment, there's less of a chance of reacting, feeling hurt, throwing energy, because you're able to observe it from that neutral, invisible place, and it doesn't affect you.
Yeah, so now that word neutral comes into play, where I could get angry, but I'm going to choose to simply observe this and see where it goes. I'm not going to take it personally. I'm going to let it really kind of just pass right through me as if it has nothing to do with me. And it becomes very valuable, even in arguments with one another. You take things personally.
Yeah.
In this space, it's like, I can see that you're angry and you're just venting, throwing energy and hurt, and I'm not going to take it personal.
Yeah.
I'm going to see how I can take it to the next step.
It's like there's this woman in my dance class who, there's something odd going on between us, and she personally, as I just observe her clairvoyantly, has a lot of body issues, meaning is very aware of her hair and very aware of what she wears, and so there's a pain level behind that that's motivating her to behave that way. But what she does is she completely doesn't recognize me. It's like I'm invisible. And I'll say, hello, good morning, and nothing, talking to somebody else. And if I was not invisible, that would hurt my feelings.
Yeah. And so it gives you an opportunity to kind of walk past that and see some of the experiences.
See her
yeah.
and her pain. If I wasn't in that invisible alignment, my feelings would get hurt, and I wouldn't have a clear perspective of what was really going on.
Yeah. So this ability to begin to start to perceive from this quieter space is really a valuable skill set. And we're going to talk more about that. Mastering Alchemy, we're really talking about that a lot anyway. And it, with all the other skills coming together, allows you to move through this in a way that you begin to perceive your relationships different, your job different, your engagements with the world different. But to a great extent, one of the things we can talk about again another day is all of this challenge in the world is something that we each feel. But where the trick is we don't distinguish many times, is this my anger, my frustration, my concern, my anxiety, my stress, or is it the world's? And that distinction is one that is very much all about health. Because when you can't discern between the anxiety of the world today and your own anxieties, that anxiety begins to be your anxiety, and that anxiety starts to create significant health experiences.
Let's talk about that next time.
Another time. Okay. So this is good.
Good.